Hello and welcome back. I'm Ken. We're visiting with Mike. Mike, we've taken a lot of different directions and talked about a lot of different organizations, but it's all about lasting change. And it's all
Yeah,
about some common threads that we find among
yeah,
leaders who can move toward helpful lasting change.
yes.
Take us further.
Well, last week we talked about seeing and making an assessment when things started or when there are breaks and stuff like that. And as I was thinking about it this week, there's a philosophy or a mindset in all of those things, which I would describe as immediacy. In other words, it's something that's important, it's urgent, there should be no delay. It is a priority. And each of the guys that we talked about did that in different ways, but yet showed that concept of immediacy. Gosen, to turn around a 100,000 employee company is no small task, and yet within a short time he was getting proposals and keeping people accountable. Or no, the examples in the books that I referred to was on the floor, and when he was on the floor, it was, well, when we get back to the office, we'll talk about it. No, it was being right there and handled right there and then, and making an issue out of it. Yunus had the payments of the debt back, starting first with every day. And then he said, well, that's a little bit too cumbersome. So once a week. But once a week is a short leash still when people used to pay back things at the end of the year or whatever. So each of those individuals, while they didn't talk about the need for immediacy, their response to situations that they encountered showed that they acted right away and expected people also to do the same thing. Uh, and there's different ways that you can convey that. In one company that we visited in Nagoya, there was a big manufacturer of glass for windows and for cars and stuff like that. And the guy that took us around was the VP of operations, which, the fellow that was translating for me was impressed because, there's an important guy coming to talk to the students. Anyway, and the first thing that one of the first things that happened is a bell rang. And as soon as it rang, he said, oh, there's a problem in this area. Let's go and find out. So he knew exactly where it was. And by the time we got there, the maintenance people were already there, the engineers were already there. And the point was is that you walk with purpose. You walk at a certain rate that allows you to, it's not a morning stroll, it's not a Sunday drive, it's you need to get there.
The phrase
So,
that comes to my mind is you don't dawdle, you get
yeah,
there.
yes, exactly. So when you're looking and when you're walking around, you look at what's happening, the rate at which people are behaving. And that gives you an idea also of the mindset that there is in the organization. Another example of immediacy is what Toyota has, which is called andon. And essentially, there is a cord all along the line of the assembly line overhead. And if the individual is having trouble in putting together whatever it is that he's supposed to do, he pulls that cord. And that cord automatically does a couple of things. One is it stops the line, And two is it rings a bell. So anybody who's around knows what that is. And three, it also posts on the board where the problem is, where the issue is. So there again, it's almost like a call for action. It's not something that people ignore because the priority is we need to get the ball rolling. We need to have the line moving. Um, so it again is there's a purpose, and there's also an aspect of teamwork. Like in the glass example that I mentioned before, it's a call for help, really, to resolve an issue that the individual feels that you know it won't be able to get the job done in the time that is assigned. Therefore, so there's a whole aspect like that of immediacy. And when you're looking at things, while it's not necessarily uh, a very specific kind of measurable thing, but you still can assess it. You can see the intent and the, the dynamism that's created. And the other thing also with those two systems is that you have a call for assistance. So the immediacy is that if you're the operator, you don't go to the phone and call up the supervisor and in the supervisor, okay, I'll get in touch with maintenance, and maintenance says, oh, we're busy right now. We'll come when we're done here. None of that. The priority is that the line has to be working. The priority is you've got to get there and you moving, at a fair pace. So and the whole idea is to also not only to do patchwork, but also to have a permanent fix to really get to the issue. So when you're looking at the an operation on a longer term, those are the kinds of thoughts that came to mind that says you're going there to fix something, to do something. You have a purpose.
And it sounds to me like the only way to, shall I say, spread that through the organization is for
Yes,
leadership at every level
at
to
every
not
level.
only talk about that mindset,
Yes,
but to be there and to do that and to be the ones who are walking quickly.
exactly. Yeah, to reinforce what you just said, there's whatever the environment, the key is to assess if the person who owns the situation is exercising their responsibilities. Because the key thing is not fixing the thing, but the key thing is, are people behaving the way that they should be doing? Is the attitude there to fix the problem? If they are not, then the question is why? Why aren't they thing? One is they've never been confronted with the expectation. That's one typical situation. Another one is they don't know. So if you explain to them the need for that, you train them, then hopefully they'll implement and they'll behave accordingly. In some cases, it may be that they are unwilling to perform that task. Well, then the job of the leader, of the boss, is to say, do I have the right person in the position? Because if they don't perform the task, then it's not going to happen. So there has to be accountability. So when you're looking at things, the key thing in observing what's happening is more than just the techniques that you can use to discern what's happening, but all first is every operation, every area, there's a person who's uh, acknowledged as being responsible for it. And the question is, are they doing that or not? And that's a little bit more difficult. And half of the time, managers don't even know that. So
because they're not there, because
they're
they
not
don't
there.
have eyes
Yeah,
and ears on the job.
exactly, exactly. So that's what I was thinking was, how do you get that mindset? How do you get that attitude? And like you said, pointed out, it has to start from the top. The guy that came out from headquarters in Tokyo to come and take us around the place, you know, he went out and with us and saw. And the funny thing is, a few years later, I went back another time with another group of students. And the first thing that he said, I really appreciated your visit because it made me realize the gap there was between what I was saying and what ought to be and what was happening.
Good for you. I'll bet that was music to your ears.
Which was surprising because, the attitude typically would be, oh, we'll have kids, we have to take them, we're going to babysit them or whatever it is, instead of saying, well, it'll give us an opportunity to see how we're doing, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
And
it's
another thing about that visit that kind of stands out to me is the vice president came out from headquarters and surprised the interpreter because it's so unusual for leaders to grasp how important that is.
yes, yes, exactly, exactly. So it's and the thing that talking about seeing and looking, the fellow had given me his business card.
Hmm.
So after we had left, he said, my interpreter asked me, "Did you read the business cards?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Did you notice?" I said, "Notice what?" I saw his name, fine. He's from the company, fine. So what's there to notice, kind of thing. That's when he pointed out that the guy had come out from Tokyo, from headquarters, to come and be with us for that visit. So again, you have to develop a sense of observation because the details sometimes are very important. And
And noticing them is very
yeah,
important.
exactly,
So
exactly.
how much of a trip was it from Tokyo, the headquarters, to Nagoya, where the factory
Uh,
was?
he would have taken probably the bullet train in less than 2 hours.
So less than 2 hours both ways.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay. So he probably dedicated most of a day, most of one of his days
Oh yeah, no,
to,
that pretty well shut his day, kind of
yeah.
thing.
Okay. Okay. That's the kind of commitment I'm thinking about. Thank you.
So the whole idea is when we're looking at those cases that we saw, every one of those had a sense of urgency, a sense of need to act now.
Yes.
And seeing is not only to look at the situation, but also to convey that sense of you need to address it. If you're not the guy in charge, whoever is, then they should be owning it because if you don't do it, then you don't own it, and that's the challenge. Um, so it's then there's kind of techniques, kind of things, and the techniques depend a bit on the environment that you find yourself in. So, for instance, if within the family environment, the questions that I would have is, who are your friends? What do they do? What do they like? And what do you do for entertainment? What's your fun, kind of thing? Schoolwork, how are you doing? Mealtime, and I'm so shocked to see the number of people who are tied to their cell phone during mealtime. And my reaction is, it should be and no phone during the mealtime because it should be conversation and contact with each other kind of thing. So the interpersonal communication is important. So I would be looking at those kinds of things at work. Well, there's different techniques. Um, there's one concept that talks about 8 wastes. So when you're looking at something, activities can have some waste, defects, something being produced but it's no good, overproduction, making more than what you need, delays, waiting, transporting things from one place to another, inventory between locations as well as finished inventory, extra motions, downtime, over processing, beating the thing to death kind of thing. So each of those areas are considered wastes. And if you know what you're looking for, if you have a standard, you need a plumb line. And those are essentially plumb line that you can use to see how good the operation is. Another aspect is that the Japanese have is something called the 5S, and why S? Because it's every word that they chose and starts with an S. To sort what you've got in your own area, to straighten out your area, to have a place cleaned up, to sustain the operation, to have standards. So you're looking at those and see how well does that work area looks like. And that allows you to determine what's what kind of thing. So for instance, when you look at work areas in many places, people hoard stuff.
Hmm.
And in one place, I remember in Poughkeepsie, New York, uh, we just bought some stuff, and suddenly people are saying, we need more stuff. There isn't any at the stores. So that doesn't make any sense. So we went back on the floor to look, and everybody, well, as soon as the stuff came in, everybody ordered out that kind of the clips because they were known to miss them. And if they miss them, then they cannot produce what they're supposed to produce. So they had learned to hoard stuff away. Well, hoarding it away then suddenly compounded the problem. So you have those kinds of things, and you
Interesting.
in between stations, you look, or the ideal is one piece flow. You produce the thing, and it flows through the place, as compared to each station producing a batch of them, yes, and you stack them until you finished, and then it's moved to the next station, and the next station then goes and repeat, do their thing, kind of thing. So the whole idea is if you eliminate waste like that, then first you don't need as much material. Two is you have more space, and it's a lot more efficient. I visited the plant that made the exhaust system for Toyota, and it was surprising to see how close each work area was because there was no distance for the part to travel. So even though you had individuals at different stations within that area, they were almost elbow to elbow,
Wow.
so that there was no transportation, no delay, no stacking of inventory in between. So, and that's how you get proficient. Otherwise, so
It
those are
sounds
the
like it's
ideas.
very efficient. And here's
Yeah.
my pun. It's less exhausting.
Yes.
Anyway.
So that's what I was trying to say is that from a seeing point of view, the criteria is not to find fault, but one is how do we improve? How do we make the job easier? That's really what it comes down to. And as you improve, then people don't have to work as hard and you're a lot more proficient. in doing what you're supposed to do.
And morale is boosted.
Yeah.
They're
Yes,
they're more excited about getting their job done. We're
exactly.
about out of time. This has been wonderful on immediacy and some techniques for evaluating. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Anything to conclude?
Well, a lot of places know the techniques, but fail the immediacy.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Okay. It's like I've been at places where, like in Boston, and they know the terminology, they know everything, but they're not doing
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
They're not doing it in a real time kind of thing.
And they wonder why they're having trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, thank you. Look forward to next visit.